celebrate this glorious and unexpected reunion.
Listen, I just want to celebrate the fact that we're all still alive. How you doing back there, Sparrow?
It was great.
Boy, oh boy, this is quite a car.
You're telling me. You know, in 1936, I had a car just like this little sweetheart. It's the best car I ever had. Ran on hot air and double talk. I got kind of a feeling it's 1936 all over again. I'm gonna get Rita a coat with a fur collar and Rod here, a double-breasted blazer. We'll be in business. We'd have quite an act, don't you think, Elliot?
Seems to me you got quite an act going for yourself right now, Eddie.
Well, why don't you kids go inside and order me a double or whatever you get.
Oh, I already ate dinner.
Yeah, well, you're eating for two now, Ricky. Come on. Here you go.
Thank you.
You want to explain that, Crack?
I thought it was clear enough.
When I first came to town, you held out your hand. You said, let's shake. You wanted to help me. But something's going wrong. Now, what do you got against me?
Not a thing.
But you're pushing me.
Am I?
Yeah, at the office and the other night.
Oh, forget that.
I don't want to forget it. I want to find out what it is. What it is that's rubbing you the wrong way.
Nothing, Eddie.
But you're trying to build a case against me. You're trying to tie me in with, what's his name? Chandler. And Chandler's escape and Harrington.
Look, Eddie, level with me. What are you really here for?
That little girl. That young lady is my daughter, and I don't even know what her favorite color is. Now, wouldn't you say that that's a situation that calls for some attention?
No, wait a minute. Am I missing something, or did I not really hear the names of Chandler and Harrington mentioned?
Boy, oh boy. You must have been in with a hard bunch in the pen to be so suspicious, so...
Oh, boy. I never even heard of a soft bunch. How do you get into that, anyway? You write to your congressman?
I am trying to tell you something, Mr. Pillar of the community, but you're not listening, and you ought to be.
I don't want to hear anything at all about the story of your newfound golden heart.
I'm trying to tell you that you're not the only civilized man who's been behind bars, you know? And you have no right to try to run every other ex-con out of town. Or do you? Now, why are you doing it? What's your beef? What's happened to you inside?
About the same thing that's happened to you.
Then why the crusade?
Crusade? Who do you think talked Aid into giving you that job?
You? Oh, well, boy, you got me there. I never would have guessed it. I sure do thank you for it. I take back everything I said against you that you didn't like. And listen, you come on down to the tavern real soon, like you promised, and I'll give you some fine booze and convince you once and for all that I'm the cleanest guy in town. Next to you.
All right, Eddie, I'll drive down to the wharf. Pretty soon we'll have a chat.
Now, you make it soon.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Who is it?
May I come in?
No.
It's rather drafty out here, Betty.
If you'd had the manners to have the desk clerk announce you, you could have saved yourself a climb.
What I have to say isn't very conducive to telephones or long public hallways.
I'm not interested in anything you have to say.
Tell me that after you hear it. Cozy.
Get to the point.
All right. I came here to tell you that nothing happened between Stephen and me. Not in Boston or anyplace else.
You're lying.
Yes, I am. That's what I was told to say by Stephen.
Get out.
Don't you want to hear the truth?
Not from you.
I'm afraid I'm the only one who'll give it to you.
Is that why you came here, for an evening's amusement?
I came here to clear the air once and for all.
Well, I don't want to hear any of the gory details.
No, of course you don't. way you have the luxury of being the injured party without bearing any of the responsibility.
Responsibility?
These things happen, Betty. This time it happened to you. You'll survive.
Just like that.
If you don't drown yourself first in tears of self-pity.
Or dust myself off, start all over again.
If you have the courage.
Well, then you're through with Stephen. You're returning him to me like a borrowed suit of clothes. Or maybe I don't want him back. Even if he were dry, cleaned, and moth-proofed.
Oh, act your age, Betty. I lost my head, so did Stephen. It was that simple. I realize now that it was foolish, and I think Stephen does too.
Well, you make it sound so clinical.
Well, that's not quite the right word. It was one of those instant attractions. Purely physical, probably, but compulsive. You know the kind. Or do you, Betty?
I know your kind, Mrs. Van Luyden.
Well, you're the only one moaning about it. I've already told Martin.
You told him what?
That I had a very brief, impulsive affair with your husband.
You're vicious.
He understood. I told him that it was a mistake. He agreed, and that was that.
Well, what happens some night when you're bored, Mrs. Van Luyden? When Martin Peyton's money and his house and his age have lost their charm? Will you be on the prowl again?
It takes two, Betty. It always has. Only this time you'll have a weapon. Every woman's dream. Something to hold over her husband's head, to twist and turn every time he gets out of line. Every time he forgets to put out the garbage or feed the cat. Now, you play your cards right, you'll have a very successful marriage. After all, I doubt if you can do any better than the Stephen Cord.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Van Luyden, for a first-rate course in love and marriage.
Perhaps you can teach me something someday. Stephen, don't bother. She won't listen.
Betty? Betty, open the door. Betty, I want to talk to you. I have to talk to you.